We added $205,000 in email revenue in 30 days for an 8-figure ecom brand. No new ad spend, no list growth, same audience that already had completely different email strategy. In this video, I'm walking you through every single strategy we used and the data behind why each one worked. And by the end, I'll break down the single most overlooked klaviyo mistake we found in this account, the one fix nobody catches, that on its own was quietly costing them tens of thousands per month. Quick context before we get into it, I run an agency called Mail. We do email and SMS marketing for ecom brands doing 100k a month or more. Over the last 4 years, we've sent close to 400 million emails and generated north of $40 million in revenue for our clients. One thing I want to flag right away, the 205k we added wasn't measured on Klaviyo's default 5-day open or click attribution. That can be inflated. This was done on 1-day click only. Very aggressive attribution, which makes it much harder to hit results like this. And we made email responsible for 30% of total revenue that month. That was their highest revenue attributed email month ever outside of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So the obvious question is, what did we actually do? Because this brand wasn't broken. Their open rates were good, their click rates were good. On the surface, they looked like any other 8-figure ecom brand running Klaviyo competently. But when I went into their account, I found 7 things sitting in plain sight that were quietly capping their revenue. So the first thing was their segments. In theory, this brand was doing really good. They had a very high open rate and click rate with regular 3 to 4 campaigns per week, but they were not hitting a majority of their list because of deliverability concerns. So what we did was honestly quite simple. We start gradually expanding the segments. We also added full list blasts, and then while we're doing all of it, we were monitoring deliverability. So a lot of brands think that full list blasts are wrong because, there's some kind of like myth that you can't be blasting your full list. And whenever you do it, it's a big mistake. You're gonna absolutely damage your deliverability and your emails will be going to spam. This is wrong. If you're doing it strategically, which you should be doing, this is a great way just to bring in more engaged profiles and increase your overall reach. As a result of doing that, what we did for this brand was they had bigger engaged segments, and as a result of that, they had more total recipients, which also means more eyeballs on the emails, more clicks, and ultimately more revenue. You can also see how we pretty much went from, barely doing like 1.3 mil recipients in February, then to over 2 mil in March, then to 2.4 mil in April. And on the right hand side, you can see the deliverability chart that actually our open rate didn't take a hit at all. It was still sitting at 55%, and actually click rate in April was higher than it was in March or February. So that alone moved the needle, but before I get into the rest, quick aside. If you're already watching this and realizing that your account probably has some of these gaps too, this is exactly what we fixed at Mail. Just take a look at this brand where we added 421k in revenue in Q1 2026, which is 89% year-over-year growth, while the entire brand grew by 38%. So if you're an ecom brand doing over 100k a month, first link in the description, books a call directly with me. Now back to it, because the bigger lift came from changing what we were actually sending. And the main thing that we introduced for this brand was using plain text emails. So they have already been using them as their sale last call, which is still like a very good use case because most brands don't use plain text emails at all. But in their case, their product jobs were doing extremely well. They were driving a lot of revenue and they are essentially the main revenue driver. So a simple quick that we implemented for them was adding one more plain text email as the evening send on the second day of the drop. As a result, we started doing an extra 10 to 16k per campaign, which was honestly pretty decent because you can see, very high click rate, pretty decent open rate. And even though it was the second email of the day that we sent towards the evening or in the evening, the revenue was amazing. 11k from this one, then 16k from this one. And you can see that the AOV is pretty decent. For this email, it was 1k AOV. For this one, $620. So not bad at all. But the extra send only worked because of what we changed about the message itself. Because one of the other things we have done for them was simplifying the messaging. Messaging is another key piece that once it's optimized, it can make a huge difference. And I know this is also like a cliche thing, just like, to optimize your copy, optimize your messaging. But the truth is that I can't give you a super specific advice because there is no one size fits all and you always need to test it and adjust it to your brand, funnel, and overall communication style. For this brand, their visuals, their content, photos, videos, all of that was doing the heavy lifting. Their brand, honestly, assets were one of the best ones I've ever seen, so we tried leaning more into that. So instead of doing the selling inside the email, having super long copy, and then trying to explain the product in there, we switched over from long paragraphs to shorter and more punchier copy. This worked like a charm as our click rate and conversion rates increased because honestly that resonated with the audience. So again, it worked quite well. But now everything I just covered, segments, the launch send, the copy, the campaign side, and it added real money. But the bigger lake in this account wasn't on the front end. It was buried inside their flows. This brand had all of their core flows set up already, they're doing quite well. But under the hood, I found three separate things that were quietly leaking the revenue. So the first thing was their bestseller logic. Running conditional splits in your flows is a great way to generate more revenue because it allows you to personalize the content a bit more, and ultimately, at some point you should be doing that, especially when you have a specific SKU or collection that drives 70 to 80% of your total sales. So this was the case for this brand as well, but there was one issue. The logic in there was broken, so most of the flow recipients would still get the generic option, which again was pretty much the basic option rather than getting the personalized one. The fix was, obviously simple, just auditing all of the flows and analyzing if all splits work. Because once identified, it takes honestly just a few minutes to fix. But in this case, it was adding 5 figures in monthly revenue for this brand, where again, it just took us like a few minutes and was super simple. But the next fix actually involved adding more emails, which I know is, for some people, one of the favorite email strategies to implement for pretty much anything you're doing email related. So building out the flows was the other thing we have done for them. One of the most misunderstood advice is also one of the most common one, which is send more emails to make more money. Because this might be absolutely true, and it is true for most brands, but after some point, the returns might be diminishing. What that means that, for example, if you go from sending 2 campaigns per week to 4 per week, you're gonna get exponential increase in revenue. You can easily pretty much 2x your revenue by sending twice as many emails. But if you 2x it again, so you take it from 4 emails a week to 8 emails per week, it won't be 2x in revenue. It still might be like 1x or 20% more, 30% more, but it won't be as big because again, the results are gonna be diminishing. So the one thing you need to understand is when and why you should be sending more. For this brand, their high-end intent flows, which is abandoned cart and checkout, both had only 2 emails, and the stats on all of their emails in the flow were looking amazing. So the easy win was just adding more emails plus A/B testing the offer to see which discount converts better, but also which one gives us better margin, because this brand was a higher AOV one, so testing fixed dollar amount versus percentage off made a lot of sense, and in some cases saved us pretty much like half of the discount's value as the free margin. So what we did was adding 2 more emails to both of the flows, and in the first month the abandoned cart flow generated 37% more revenue, and abandoned checkout flow generated 41% more revenue. And then there was the third one, the one I mentioned at the start of this video, the most overlooked mistake that we found in this account. And honestly, it's the kind of thing only someone who's been through over 70 accounts catches so quickly. So it was about their third-party pixel. Because you might not know this, or maybe you're not fully aware, but their Shopify and Klaviyo pixels or tracking aren't ideal. This is why there's something like third-party pixel apps like Ecommerce or Elevar, because pretty much what they do is they act as an extension of your pre-purchase events that Shopify just didn't catch. That allows you to create pre-purchase flows just like you would do for your regular events. So as an example, you always have your viewed product metric in Klaviyo from Shopify. You also have the other to cart, viewed collection, checkout started, and whatnot. But not all of these events will be caught because of multiple reasons, mainly privacy issues, cookies expiring and whatnot, and so forth. But Elevar helps you fix this, and I'm not pushing Elevar, you don't need to use this. But also it makes a lot of sense to use it once you are above 100k a month, because it can just add some real revenue. So this brand made 2 mistakes. First of all, they were paying for the full Elevar plan, but they didn't have the begin checkout metric enabled, so they were not using that at all, and they were planning, paying for that already. So it just makes sense to use something fully that you pay for as well. So adding this flow alone, added a few thousand a month as well. And the second mistake was a bigger one because they cloned their existing flows without changing anything. So delinks, dynamic fields, conditional splits all weren't working as they should. This might sound weird, but the truth is that every single metric is structured a bit differently. They are, being sent in a different way. They have different properties, syntax, everything like that. That's why whenever you clone the metric from the Shopify one to, for example, Elevar or Ecommerce, you need to update the links, the properties, the conditional splits, dynamic fields, and this brand didn't do it. So they're pretty much sending the abandoned cart Elevar flow, which wasn't fully working, and it, for example, had a wrong, split. It was again sending all the people to the generic one. The dynamic fields weren't working as they should. So again, it just wasn't ideal customer experience, and this was causing them to lose multiple thousands in revenue. Both of these are quite common, but this is exactly why you should be always auditing your own account regularly, even though you think that everything is working fine, perfectly, and you don't have anything to fix. But now there is one more thing we did to their flows, and it's honestly the one that surprises clients the most when I explained the reasoning. So welcome flow delays. I know there's gonna be a big, probably argument whenever you try to, do it yourself and think that, okay, maybe this is the wrong way to do it. But the problem is that most brands think that their welcome flow should nurture people and it should be spread out across multiple weeks or even months. That seems to be the case, especially for the high AOV brands, just like this one, from this video. They look at their average conversion cycle and think that they need to perfectly adjust it. So let's say that, for this brand, I think their average conversion cycle is 21 days, which means that someone on average from the first touch point to the conversion takes 21 days to make the decision. So they thought they need to align the entire welcome flow to fit within those 21 days. But this is not the case, because when you look at multiple data points, and we have a different external software we use to track it as well, whenever you look at the data, 70 to 80% of all welcome flow conversions happen on day 0, which means that 70 to 80% of everyone who joins your list is going to buy the same day they join, or they're not gonna buy at all. I mean, there's still a chance they're gonna buy in the first week, so in the first 7 days, but the chances of them doing that drop drastically, and after 7 days, it drops even more. Again, they might buy at some point, but the chances of them doing that are quite low. So for this brand, we've tested their current time delays, which is 1 to 4 days between each email, versus more aggressive ones, which was 12 hours between every single email. It honestly worked like a charm and increased our welcome flow revenue quite a lot. You can see at the screenshot below that pretty much the welcome flow revenue was up by 36%, which was honestly quite decent, especially considering the size of the brand. So that's the breakdown. 7 strategies, $205,000 added in 30 days on the most aggressive attribution Klaviyo offers. And if you're sitting here watching this and thinking that my account probably has gaps like these too, you're almost certainly right. Every Klaviyo account at this level has them. So if you want to see what we would do for your account specifically, first link in description books a call with me. Just check out this brand where we took their email revenue from 31k a month to over 120k per month in just 12 months, adding over 900k in the span of the whole year. And if you want another full case study breakdown, watch how we took this ecom brand from 450k a month to 1.1 million a month in just 90 days using the same playbook. Click it right here.